الطب ومراحله لا يقتصران على حدود جغرافية ولا ظروف المكان والزمان، فالطب يعتبر لغة عالمية تتحدثها كل الأمم والدول، وشهادة الطب بالسعودية تؤهل حاملها على إكمال تخصصه الدقيق بكافة المجالات والدول المتقدمة المتميزة. ما هي كيفية قبول الطبيب بالبورد الخارجي؟ وما هي الاختلافات بين البورد الوطني والبورد الخارجي؟ دعوني أرحب بسعادة الدكتورة أحلام زنيدي، استشاري الطب الباطني وطب الغدد الصماء، الحاصلة على البورد والزمالة الأمريكية، وأستاذ مشارك بكلية الطب بجامعة القصيم، لتقديم محاضرة البورد الخارجي، فلتتفضل مشكورة.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm so happy to be with you here today. I remember when I was here 2000 something, so I will not say it. And I was planning to go to the US, and I was determined, but I just needed help. Dr. Nizar Bahabri, he was there. And my experience was only with the US, so I have no experience with other countries. So the only I'm going to talk to you is about the American board. All information I'm going to list to you, it's from my personal experience. So if anything is missed, always do your homework and ask what you want to do in other countries. Was one of your objectives that or agenda you want me to talk about today is advantage and disadvantage comparing the Saudi board to the US board or other countries' board. And I think that's individualized and based on what you want in life. And I just brought you what's different in the US, and you can decide if that's something advantage to you or disadvantage to you. Something can be advantage to me, maybe disadvantage for you, and so on. And I think the difference when I first started is not the same when I finished my board. So that's kind of sum up from the beginning of my experience there until the end. The main difference, I think, is diversity and exposure, especially in the US. Many people you are going to meet, and different kind of patients, from simple to very complicated cases. And that give you I see it as an advantage because you deal with different people with different religion, different background, and again is also different disease with very complicated history across the world. I've seen patients, American patients, Saudi patients in the US, patient from Qatar in the US, they're just coming for treatment. So I think the exposure will give you an broad overview how to deal with different people. Other thing is duration of the training. To my knowledge, because I only did internal medicine, the internal medicine in Saudi Arabia is 4 years. In the US, it's a 3-year program. The first year is called internship, and the second and the third years are residence. You are responsible for your patient as a senior from your second year. And that's, I think, a difference from Saudi. You are a senior on your third year, not in your second year. That's, I see it as an advantage because I don't want to spend time junior. Like by 6 months, you already been in the hospital for 6 months, you can be senior after that. Vacations and time off. That's very big difference from here. And it's thousands of miles away or from home. And the vacation in my first year, it was only 2 weeks for the whole year. And you cannot take it in a row. And that's important when you go for residency interview to ask about the vacation time and if you can make it in a row or not. And it's only set, like the first year you can either take the Christmas or the New Year's week off. There is no negotiation about that. Every year, 1 more week you can get. Until you reach your third year, you can take 4 weeks off. The big disadvantage of that, it's very few time to visit your family, to go back home, And it's very difficult for 1 week to go home visits. You need 2 weeks actually for multiple flights to go back home. Time off as well is not just the vacation. The duration of the training itself in days, it's not just a 12 hours, sometimes more than that if you haven't finished the work. So it's a busy time. The other difference is proactive training. If you can say, what's that? I think that it's not about the training itself. It's more about the culture. And the Western culture, more of proactive. They're not waiting for you, and they're not going to give you an agenda, and they expect from you in 6 months or 3 months you haven't met that. No, you have to take the initiative to learn. You have to take the initiative. I was scared the first year. Went all crying. I want to go home. I want to go back. And it's like, okay, it's done. Let's get on practice. I'm going to be a second year in 6 months. I have to be more confident. I want to do the centralized myself. If I'm out overnight by myself. And that came from, I'm scared I'm going to be a second year resident in 6 months. So they don't depend, they're not waiting for you. You have to take that initiative. And I really like that. It changed me. It makes me more a mature person. And it's not something unique about the US. It's something you can also do it here. If it's in your mind, I want to get better, I want to be better, I'm not waiting for agenda to meet, then let's just have your own agenda and have your own goals and achieve them. Again, it's extroverted culture was one of the difficult for me. I'm from Qassim, from Saudi Arabia, went to extreme extroverted culture there. In the beginning it was difficult, but people there are more open. Since I told you they have multiple diversity, multiple culture, multiple nationalities there. They are aware of your culture, they're aware that you are different. It's just when you go there and say, hi, my name is this, they welcome you. Expenses, yes, it's very expensive. If one of your plans after you finish your residency is that you have your own house, you want to drive a fancy car, I'm telling you that's very difficult to do unless you are already rich. All your expenses is going to be spent on your insurance. For your car, insurance is paid every month. Your house is every month. Nothing by year, is everything by month. And you can imagine, like, even though every month is more expensive, the groceries are more expensive than that. If you want to go back home on a flight, the cultural mission only give you 1 ticket a year, that's it. But if you want to go more than that, if you want to visit your family more, you will pay it yourself. Safety. Yes, it's the US, we're all concerned of high risk of crimes, but I did it by myself there. It's pretty safe if you take precautions. When you go, very important to know what states you're going to, because some states have really high rates of crimes, and people are aware that if you are asked, what's the crime rate? If you go by Google, this state, this neighborhood, what's the crime rate? You will find it. And not all states are dangerous. Some states are pretty safe, but it depends on the neighborhood. I did residency in the South, and it was one of the really highest crime rates. But I haven't seen anything. Just take the precautions. Never go outside by yourself at night. Always, when it comes to night, stay home. I brought this. It's a country of law, and you have to respect the law. Because if you are not a citizen, you are on a visa, make sure that you don't cross the lines, and even if it doesn't make sense to you, because you really can get in trouble. And I brought this because I saw others, they went into trouble with a DMV, with driving and not paying the fine, and they really get into trouble. And that's trouble, since you are on a visa, is connected with the Education Commission for graduates. So your program will know about this. So everything you do, your program will know about this. So just stay on the safe. If you make trouble, fix it. The last thing, what I really like, it's geographically different states. If you go to the east, waterfalls. If you go to the west coast, very nice oceans. If you stay in the middle, very nice forest. Even if the time off is limited, the 1 or 2 days off, you can spend it in the nearby states, enjoying the culture, enjoying the nature there. Okay, how I start to going to residency. It starts from your medical school. You need the GPA, you need your transcript, you need a dean letter, and you have to apply through the Sfmg. I'm going to talk about this either while you are now in your last year, or you can do it in your internship. And then in your internship, if you haven't decided about specialty, that's okay. You still can apply for the US programs while you're doing the internship and you haven't decided where you want to go. The best time to start the Usmle is in your internship, because you don't have other exams other than the Saudi license exam. And I think that's easy. What takes more time is the Usmle. So choose or take the advantage, the luxurious time you have in your internship. And I've seen a lot, and I heard many people, oh, you did it in your internship. I was bored, nothing to do. So just do it in your internship. If you have a plan even for fellowship, do it in your internship. You can do a pre-residency year before you go to a residency. And that depends what you want to do it. Either it can be done in observership, or you can do a research fellowship, or a master, an academic position, or you can do a local residency until you get your acceptance. Or you can start working and then you can apply for residency. This pre-residency year is optional. It's not mandatory. You can go from your internship, apply. If you get accepted in the US, immediately you can start your residency. And then after your residency is your fellowship. Okay, I mentioned in the medical school, you have to apply through Sfmg, what's called Education Commission for Foreign Medical Graduate. We are all foreign medical graduates, so we need this to apply and you start your Usmle. So Sfmg certified, that's the most important thing if you want to do residency in the US or even do a fellowship in the US, you have to be Sfmg certified. So what do I need to get Sfmg certified? You have to be graduate from accredited medical school. So our school is accredited. You don't have to worry about this. Even Uneza College is also accredited. I checked that. So you don't have to worry about that. All you need to do is Usmle. The step 1, the step 2. Nowadays, the step 2 clinical skill got suspended. So very good time for you. If you want to go to the US, I think that's the best time. They said it's suspended, so they might have an idea to bring it back. But if you got Sfmg certified without it, you're done. You got escaped from the CS. All right, the CS is kind of, I think, they're just a way of taking money that you have to go to the US, enter an exam room and saying to the patient, hi, hello, take history, and then which you are already doing. So it's just waste of money, I think. You have to travel to make it not that feasible. Step 1 and step 2, we'll talk about that. As I mentioned, the best time to start in your clinical year, in your 5th year or your internship, because the application process takes time. How I start, you have to go through the sfmg.org website, and everything is explained there. If you want to go, just have this as your friend for the application. You don't have to get accepted to start studying. Just by applying there, you will get accepted. If you are from an accredited medical school, they will accept you. You're paying the fees, they will accept you. No one will tell you, no, don't come, don't examine the Usmle. It's costly, so you need to have a budget. I didn't do it when I was a student. I don't have the budget for it, so I did it for the internship. Right, so that's the Sfmg website. You can go to the online services, and from the online services you have the Oasis. This Oasis, just go through that website. Everything is well explained. It's gonna say, is this your first application? Yes, and then you have to read the guidelines, you pay the fees, and the process, it's explained itself. Okay, so what's about the Usmle? I get many questions about that. So it was a 3 parts. Step 1 for basic science, anatomy, physiology, micro, and so on. And the step 2 CK is the medicine and surgery. It's your clinical years. It's your 4th and 5th year. The CS got suspended, as I mentioned. It's the clinical skill part. They use it as a proof of English. That's what they really care about. It's for the foreign medical graduate. If you want to know more information about the Usmle, go to the usmle.org. It tells you how many questions in there, and even there is a simulated exam you can see, and how the exams run. I did step 2 first, and then I step 1, but that was a mistake. If times will go back, I'll do step 1, then I'll do step 2, because step 1 is much easier after you graduate, and the exam is more difficult for the step 2 CK. So I would do the step 1 if you want to start, and then do the step 2 CK, because also your score will be much better on the second if you have an experience. So the same happened to me. My step 1 score became better than step 2 CK, and every time I go for interview, they're asking me, why is your 2 is much less than your step 1? They think I'm getting worse or deteriorate. I tell them, no, I did step 2 before step 1, and then I have to explain that. And even the exam is more difficult for the step 2. The questions are so long, it takes time, but the step 1 is direct questions, and much easier after your clinical years. Well, this screen is important, because I'm going to tell you about the Usmle study source from where, okay? I've decided, I went to the website, I started the process, where I study from, and how long. I think 6 months is the maximum for each step. So 6 months is more than enough. If you spend more than 6 months, you are wasting your time. But can I do it in less time than 6 months? Yes, sure, definitely. If you are spending 8 hours studying and you have 1 or 2 days off, you can finish in less than 6 months. Average 3 to 6, not less than 3 months, and not more than 6 months. From where I study, Usmle World or UWorld QBank, that's a really good reference. It's online, you can buy it for a duration, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, and always practice on the questions and give you an explanation for every time you answer the question. Other one is Kaplan Institution, if you are familiar with that. Kaplan Institution, they have books, QBanks, lectures, and many of the Saudi graduates, they go to Kaplan. They have in-center in Chicago and in New Jersey, in DC, and also one in the West Coast. At time of King Abdullah Scholarship, many Saudis, they went for the Kaplan Institution. But please, if you get a sponsorship, don't go there. You don't want to stay 1 year behind the desk just doing an exam. It's counted as gap year for you. If you go to interview, they will ask you what you were doing in that year. You don't want to say that I was just studying for Usmle. Do it in your internship, or do it while you're doing a research, or doing a local residency, but don't go for 1 year spending that too much money on just preparing for exams that you can do home. They have other option, live courses, online courses. Why you go there and spend your time just sitting for lectures? Many of Saudis, they went there, I met them, they just want to take it for fun. So that I'm telling you, it just wastes your time. Other books, First Aid for step 1, and a step up to Usmle, you use this for medicine. If you take the UWorld and the concise book, you will pass, but not with a good score. If you take the UWorld and Kaplan, and if you use extra one of these books, you will pass with a good score. Why I'm telling you this? Because the score really matters. They will tell you, no, it's pass and fail. Score really, really matters. I was with my group program for interviewing the becoming Saudi applicants. And you never know like how many, like thousands of applications comes to that program. The first filter is your Usmle score. If the year you're applying, most of the applicant, they did more than 230, and you did less than that, you will be excluded. So it depends on, and every year, people, they get higher and higher a score. So do your best. If you're planning to do, just do your best. Okay, I mentioned earlier the pre-residency programs. So what are they? It's an optional. Most of the program is 1 or 2 years. Most of them are 1 year. It's called Research Fellowship for International Medical Graduate. Most of them, they are in collaboration by Saudi Cultural Mission, الملحقية ثقافية, and we are so lucky to have them. We are the only country that helping their future doctors to get to these programs in preparation for them to get a residency in the US. A very well-known GW, that's where I did my pre-residency. Tufts also in Boston, very nice place. Toledo, they have residency as well, and they have the pre-residency. Tulane and Ashner, that's where I did my medical residency. Some other programs in Houston, some in Atlanta, some programs also I don't know. So every year, the Cultural Mission, they get more collaboration. So ask SACM about this program if you want to go there. I did GW, and the reason I did pre-residency, because I was not sure that I'm going to do residency in the US. I was still hesitant. And also it was a way to convince my parents. I told them it's only 1 year, then it became 6. So until they get used to the idea that I'm in the US. What's the requirements for the pre-residency? These programs are very expensive. They are more expensive than academic degree. If you want to do a master is less expensive than these programs. So it needs a sponsorship. I got sponsorship from here, from Qassim University. And most of the program, not to mention, not most, I think it's all of them, at least require the Usmle, step 1, and they require a proof of English. And when CS was there, so if you pass the CS, they will take it as a proof of English. But if you don't have the CS, you should have either IELTS or TOEFL. So I did step 2 CK, as I mentioned, and I did the IELTS, and I get accepted for GW. And when I was there, I finished the CS. You need also a recommendation letter. Most of this program requires a recommendation letters, at least 3. King Faisal Specialist Hospital is very well known in the US. If you take a recommendation from there, they like it. I took 2 recommendations from King Faisal Hospital, and the 2 doctors, they worked at GW before, and that helped me to get in that program. Dean letter, you will need it anyways for application from the beginning. The dean letter includes your performance as a student, how well you did, what research you have, and your volunteer experience. So when you talk to the dean, make sure to add what you have done during your medical school to be included in that letter. Okay, I mentioned exams, application, pre-residency, residency. How should I start? My advice to you is just to start studying if you really want to go, and worry about the next step later, whether it's a pre-residency, whether it's residency, whether it's fellowship. Because as I mentioned, the internship is very luxurious time, so take it wisely and do something helpful for you and finish these exams if you're planning to go. Because I've seen colleagues with me, they did the exam, they applied for residency, they did not get accepted to the residency, they came back home, they finished the residency here, and because they were already passed the exam and they have the Sfmg certificate, applied for fellowship and they got accepted. So for 2 years. So they finished their internal medicine here, and 2 years I know one did rheumatology in the US. And they don't have to repeat or do a residency or something extra. No, they got accepted immediately. Okay, what about residency? Residency is in the US. We can divide it for us either sponsored, you have a sponsor from your country for your residency, or you can apply like anybody else. So you don't have to get sponsored to be accepted in a residency program in the United States. It's just more competitive. But if you are sponsored, it's less competitive because you only compete with the Saudis. But if you're not applying through a sponsor program, you compete with the world. Yes, surgical specialty. As the medical specialty, it's easier because Americans, they don't compete with you. They compete on the surgical. They like the surgical specialties. But still, you can apply through surgical specialty and get accepted. Just need extra efforts, higher score, more efforts you spend on these programs. Even for residency, the Sfmg is your reference. If you want to know the application process, the visa process, everything through the Sfmg. The application itself for the residency is expensive. Each program you apply, you have to pay $50 for the first 50 programs, and then 25. If you want to increase your chances, you apply for more programs, more money spent. So you need a budget when you apply for residency. It's not free. Okay, if you got applied, and the main thing that you want to get a residency interview. That's the goal, you want to be interviewed. What matters, as I mentioned, the Usmle score, because that's the primary filter for international graduates. Your GPA is not that important. So if you didn't do that much well, don't worry about it. You can do better on Usmle. What they really care about is your Usmle. I was so proud of myself. I said, I was the first ranked student, and they told me, how many students in your class? They really don't care about they see you as international graduate. That's all. So what you need to do is your Usmle. Your research experience and publication helps, but it's not necessary. The idea I want to bring to you, it's many people apply there. So you want to get selected, you want to get picked. So more thing you add to your CV, the more thing they will pick you. Recommendation, yes, recommendations, not if it's letter. If it's by the phone, it helps more. So I did the pre-residency program at GW, and I talked to my mentor, and I told him, I got interview at Oshner, can you please help me? Because I really want to get accepted. He called by phone and he says, she's good, really take her, and that helped. So that's how the pre-residency program helps in getting interview. Your interview skills and your social skills, especially with the coordinators. That's important because everyone will have a role on how you get selected. It's not just the program director, the residents on that interview there, and the coordinator. They will take even your emails and see how good your emails are. So your social skills. Again, the pre-residency program helps The main thing is just people will notice you and they know, but you still can apply while you are home. You don't have to be there to apply. SACM programs give you more chances because you only, as I mentioned, compete with the Saudis. Even when you apply to the program, it tells you there is SACM track, if you want to, and there is a general track. So people, they don't know what's SACM, so that's us. That's the Saudis. Yes, if you are applying, and that's something important to know, if you are applying to a program that does have a SACM track, don't mention or reach out to the program saying, I'm a SACM sponsored or I'm sponsored by my country. They don't like that. And the reason I brought this, because SACM told us that, reach out to a program, say you are sponsored. And the program, they're seeing it as if you have money, you can take a position, but they don't like that. You can't do this outside the cycle. The cycle, there is a cycle for application. It starts for July or so you have to do it outside that cycle if you want to reach out to the programs. Last thing, I want to tell you about some skills you need in Western cultures. As I told you, it's extroverted cultures. So that skills helps as a person, whether you're here or there, but I have more difficulties in the beginning because I don't have these skills. Self-introduction sounds easy, but it's important. And the program director at GW for the international graduate, he said this: the key in this country, he means the US, is to introduce yourself. Don't wait for people to say, what's your name, what you're doing here. Take the initiative by introducing yourself. Discipline and attendance, very important. Unfortunately, some of the Saudi resident got kicked out of program in his third year because of that he's not disciplined and he comes late and he will leave early. They kicked him out of the program, so he has no chance for coming back. Learn a small talk, that helps. If you are there or even before the interview starts and you meet the program director in the elevator, it's a chance to talk about something. Don't stay silent. They really like that. If you don't know how to do the small talk, read about it. There is a book to help you for a small talk. Negotiate, never argue. I brought this because the coordinator of my program, she said once to me, oh, Arab, you like to argue. I said, why? Why are you saying that? She's saying, all Arabs like to argue. And that's how I brought it here. I start noticing and see how the US residents take what they want in a more negotiation way. And I read that book, is really good, Getting to Yes. It helps you even here, but in the Western culture, they have this idea about that we argue, not negotiate. Own your mistakes. That's important for residency anyways and in your life. And if you make a mistake, admit it, fix it, say, I'll prevent it in the future. And many questions you could be asked in interview because if it's a concern. If you have this by nature, you own your mistake, and you are in the interview and they ask you what's your strength, tell them I take initiative of making or owning my mistakes and prevent them in the future. They like that. Enjoy. Don't make it too serious. It's 3 years, 5 years, or 6 years if you want to do a fellowship. So enjoy your life. I have at the end personal advice. If you decide to go, have a positive goal from going there, because it's, as I mentioned, it's a lot of time. You are away from your own family. You are away from most of the support. And the only thing will hold you on is your positive goal. If your goal, I'm just escaping this, I'm running away from drama, I'm running away, you will find it there. Believe it or not, you will find it there. Review your goal. If it's negative, just wait, work on yourself, and then go there. Keep your prayer. You are not the first Muslim in the Western culture, so they met a lot of Muslims there. If you want to pray, just say, can I take 2 minutes? I have to go to pray. They respect that, and they will let you go to pray. Be a good example for your country. As I mentioned, one of the residents who kicked out of the program, every time an interview, they will ask, how about you on time? So one resident really made a bad impression about the Saudi's applicant. So be a good one if you want to go there. In the end, it's your choice. If you decide to do a local residency or if you want to do outside residency, you can be a good doctor anywhere. Just choose the environment that takes the best out of you. If you think the more challenges away from home will get you the best out of you, then do it. If you think no, it will give you more obstacles, then don't do it. It's your choice. That's all. I left you my email here. If anyone has any questions, I wish you all the best.
Hi, doctor. Thank you for all the information you have told us. I have a question here. You mentioned that the score matters, and if I'm only applying for fellowship, is it enough to have passed, or the score is important?
Well, the score gives you better chance, let's say. If you want to do it, do your best. If there is another applicant at the same time with you, have a higher score, they will pick them.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
مساء الخير دكتورة.
أهلا وسهلا.
I just have one question. Have you noticed that you got any advantage here after you become international US graduate in Saudi Arabia? So that like you have better positions and better hospital or better opportunity.
Like you mean about the SACM programs?
لا هنا بعد ما خلصتي وصرتي consultant هنا هل حصلتي أي advantage
as a difference
أفضل أو advantage أفضل في position أفضل؟
No, you will be treated the same. As I mentioned, you choose the environment that gets the best out of you. Some people, they went to the US, they did their worst, and some stayed here, they did their best. It's not something different. The only one I know, King Faisal Hospital, hires American and Canadian board, but I have no intention, even from the beginning, to go there, unless you want to work in a place, you know that they're hiring American Canadian board, then that's an advantage if you want to see it that way.
Thank you, Doctor, for the presentation. I have a question.
Yeah.
Are electives in the US important, especially to get a letter of recommendation from doctors based on the US to increase my chances of acceptance?
You mean recommended? I heard lectures.
Doing electives in the
Elective.
Doing electives in the US to get letter of recommendations to increase my chances.
Yeah, that helps you.
Are they mandatory nowadays?
Well, it doesn't help the program, it helps you. If you did an elective, let's say at GW, and it can help you and it can not help you in the other negative way. If you were not that good and you were not showing that interest, they will say, no, don't take him. If you do really good, they will say, yes, we'll take you. It helps you in that program, but the letter as well helps, let's say. But it helps more if you're doing it at that program. I mentioned this because Ashnar Medical School, where I did my residency, they have collaboration with Tabuk University. There is every year a medical student comes from Tabuk, and the residents with me, they're telling you, we don't like them. They're just shadowing. They're not doing anything. So it became a really disadvantage for them. So it's very important when you go there, do your best.
Okay, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. First, thank you for the presentation. It was really good and amazing. My question is related to the previous question. Is it possible for us to do an elective during the internship? I mean, after the third month in March. Usually, we will be free, most of the interns. So is that possible, or?
Yes, yeah, you can do that, but you have to look for those programs that they will give you. Make sure that it's with fees, so you need to have a budget. It's nothing for free. And if it's less than 6 months, you can do it with a visitor visa, with a tourist visa, which is easier to apply for. But it's possible, and when I was there, I didn't find these programs. I told you Usmle because they have this collaboration with Tabuk. They come from Tabuk University. George Washington University, where I did, they have 1-year program. They don't have 3 months, 2 months. So you have to ask. The reference to go and ask is SACM, because they know these programs.
Okay, thank you. Based on this question, I have another question. Is it competitive, or is there any other factors that increase my chances to get an elective there, or
the elective is not competitive. The elective is expensive.
Expensive. Oh,
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And it's not just that. You have to pay, even if you go through SACM, they will not pay you a salary for elective for 3 months. So you need a budget when you go there.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, thank you, Doctor, for the very comprehensive presentation. My question is it difficult to apply for the internship as it is difficult to apply to the residency abroad?
For the fellowship?
No, for the internship as an elective.
The whole internship?
For a month. And is it enough to apply for 1 month there?
It's the same as the question. It's expensive. And you have to find these programs. Look for these programs. Go there. They will. Usmle, I know. They accept. That's where I did my residency. As long as they pay the fees paid. And it's not just about that. Some program, they don't accept, even if you have the budget. If you pay, they will not accept your own payment. They want it to come from SACM. They make sure that any legal problems, it will be handled by SACM. So your reference is SACM. If you want to apply, find the program, find the acceptance, and ask about the payment, how it's going to be handled from SACM.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.